Adam Richards visited the cemetery every Sunday with his twin daughters, Emily and Grace. They carried small bouquets tied with ribbons and spoke to their late mother as if she were simply delayed. For Adam, these visits gave structure to their grief and taught the girls that love endures even in silence. The cemetery sat on a hill that remembered every season, and Adam felt both heavy and peaceful each time he walked the gravel path. On one particular autumn morning, he noticed something unusual. A woman in a black coat, elegant yet broken, sitting near their family stone. The woman held a single white rose, her hands trembling. A chauffeur waited discreetly by the gate, his posture betraying he was more than just a driver. Adam could tell instantly that this woman belonged to another world, a world of boardrooms, luxury, and wealth. But here, she looked like a soul stripped bare. Emily tugged her father's sleeve. "Daddy, she looks so sad." Grace nodded, already inching closer the way she always did when someone seemed hurt. Adam hesitated, but decided kindness was never misplaced. He approached quietly, asking softly, "Ma'am, is this seat taken?" The woman lifted her face, startled. Her eyes were rimmed red from crying, but they carried dignity. She glanced at Adam, then at the two little girls clutching flowers. After a moment, she shook her head and whispered, "Please." Grace climbed onto the bench beside her and gently placed one of her bouquets on the empty space between them. "For you," she said. The woman's lips trembled, and a small broken smile formed. "Thank you," she murmured. Adam and Emily knelt at Lily Richards' stone, leaving their flowers, while the woman watched silently, clutching her rose like a lifeline. When Adam and his daughters rose, the woman spoke for the first time with measured grace. "My name is Eleanor." She said it quietly, as if unused to introducing herself without fanfare. Adam introduced himself and the girls. "Emily, Grace, and I visit every week." The twins immediately accepted her, their innocence smoothing over barriers wealth usually created. "Would you like one of our ribbons?" Emily asked. Eleanor blinked, surprised. "Yes," she whispered. Grace tied the small bow around the stem of Eleanor's rose. For the first time in what felt like years, Eleanor laughed softly. It startled even her. The following Sunday, Eleanor was already waiting when they arrived. She carried a thermos of coffee and exactly 3 pastries. "I thought you might be hungry," she said. The girls accepted with glee, and Adam offered his thanks, though his pride made the word heavier than it sounded. Together, they shared the bench. Eleanor confessed she was there for her son, Thomas, who rested nearby. Her voice cracked as she said his name, but the girls repeated it gently, like a prayer. "We like saying names out loud," Grace explained. "It keeps them from getting lonely." Eleanor's eyes filled. As weeks passed, the visits became tradition. Eleanor learned about Lily, the girl's mother, and listened to stories of her laughter and love. In turn, she shared fragments of Thomas, how he wore paper crowns and loved thunderstorms. For the twins, it was simple: 2 mothers and 1 son, bound together by memory. For Adam and Eleanor, it was more complicated. She was a billionaire whose name filled headlines. He was a struggling father piecing together odd jobs. Yet on that bench, titles disappeared. There were only parents, children, and the fragile comfort of people who understood loss too deeply. One Tuesday afternoon, Adam returned alone to fix a crooked vase. To his surprise, Eleanor was there again. Rain drizzled lightly, her umbrella closed at her side. "The board wants me back in London," she said. Her tone was calm, but sorrow ran underneath. Adam, who had exactly $48 in his wallet, said simply, "I'm sorry." Eleanor studied him carefully. "What do you do, Adam?" He shrugged. "Deliveries, repairs, whatever puts food on the table." For a long moment she said nothing, then whispered, "Would you help me build a garden here?" For Thomas. Adam nodded without hesitation. Work began quickly. Adam drew sketches of paths, benches, and flowers, while the twins offered their own grand designs. Eleanor surprised him with her practicality. She knew exactly where she wanted the trees planted. Irving, her chauffeur, rolled up his sleeves and joined without complaint. Emily and Grace decorated with ribbons, declaring themselves official inspectors. For hours, laughter and work mixed in the air. Eleanor looked freer than Adam had ever seen her. "This feels right," she admitted quietly. He didn't answer, but he agreed. The cemetery no longer felt like a place of endings. It was becoming a beginning. Not everyone approved. One Sunday, a couple passing by whispered Eleanor's name, their voices laced with cruel curiosity. "The billionaire widow," one muttered. Eleanor stiffened, shame creeping into her features. Adam pretended not to hear, instead handing her a rake. "Help me with this side," he said simply. She looked at him in surprise, then nodded, grateful. Together they planted 6 dogwoods, their white blossoms like lanterns. Grace explained. "So Thomas won't be lonely," Emily added. "And so Mommy will have neighbors." Eleanor's eyes filled again, but she smiled through the tears. "Your girls see the world clearer than most." The bond grew beyond the cemetery. Eleanor began bringing small gifts, scarves for the girls, a toy piano for their room. Adam resisted at first, wary of pity, but she insisted. "Not charity," she said firmly. "Friendship." Emily and Grace adored her, often holding her hands as if she were already family. Adam noticed the way Eleanor's eyes softened when she looked at them, and he wondered how a woman with such power could seem so vulnerable. Yet the truth was simple. Grief had leveled them both. And in that leveling, something new was quietly forming, something neither of them expected. Winter arrived with sharp winds. Still, the visits continued. Eleanor often brought blankets and hot cocoa, insisting Irving prepare a basket. The twins built small snow figures beside the stones. One morning, vandals had knocked over Thomas's vase, shattering the flowers. Eleanor fell to her knees, devastated. Adam swallowed his anger, steadied her shoulder, and said, "We can fix it." The girls joined, carefully replanting the flowers. By the end, the vase stood tall again, and laughter returned. "Why are you so kind?" Eleanor asked softly. Adam looked at his daughters. "Because they deserve a world where kindness survives." In December, Eleanor invited them to her townhouse. It was filled with art and elegance, but Emily and Grace were drawn to the piano. Eleanor played a lullaby, hesitant at first, then steady. Adam watched her, surprised at the tenderness in her hands. She explained softly, "Thomas made me learn. He said music heals silence." The twins begged her to teach them, and Eleanor laughed, agreeing. Later, she pulled Adam aside and offered him a contract. Steady pay for maintaining Thomas's garden. "Not charity," she repeated. "A partnership." Adam hesitated, then accepted. For the first time, stability felt possible. The press soon noticed their unusual friendship. A photo of Eleanor with Emily and Grace appeared online, sparking gossip. Adam worried it would scare her away, but she sent him a message instead. "Ignore them. What matters cannot be captured in headlines." She attached a photo of the dogwoods at dawn. white blossoms glowing like stars. The twins taped it above their beds. To them, it wasn't about fame or wealth. It was about family. And slowly, Adam realized they were no longer just strangers bound by grief. They were becoming something far more precious. They were becoming home. As spring approached, Eleanor's company pressured her to leave again. She confessed her conflict during one of their walks. "They pay me to shape decisions," she said. "But here, I feel like I'm mending something instead of just managing." Adam nodded, understanding more than he admitted. "The garden will keep growing, even if you're gone," he said, "and we'll send photos every week." She smiled, grateful. Emily piped up, "Then we'll be like gardeners and reporters." Grace added, "And you'll never miss a thing." Eleanor laughed, tears sparkling in her eyes. "You two could manage a whole empire." 2 days before her flight, Eleanor arrived at Adam's apartment with 2 boxes. Inside were bright yellow rain boots for the twins. Emily squealed and put hers on immediately, stomping through the living room. Grace hugged Eleanor's waist, whispering, "Thank you." Adam caught Eleanor blinking away tears. She looked at him and said quietly, "They remind me what matters." Adam said nothing, but his chest tightened. Wealth had given Eleanor power, but it hadn't given her peace. Somehow, 2 little girls in yellow boots had offered her more healing than all the riches in the world. Their goodbye was simple but heartfelt. Eleanor promised weekly calls and monthly visits, "And in May, we'll plant together again," she said firmly. At the cemetery, she placed her hand on Lily's stone. "Thank you," she whispered. Adam watched silently, understanding the unspoken bond forming between 2 women who had never met but shaped his life. She then touched Thomas's name, her shoulders trembling. The twins held her hands tightly, grounding her in the present. Irving loaded her bags into the car, and with one last look, Eleanor left. The bench felt emptier without her, but hope remained. Adam kept his promise. Every Sunday, he and the girls sent Eleanor photos. The first tulip, the robin nesting, the twins practicing piano. She responded faithfully, sending small notes of encouragement. "Tell them I am proud," one message read. "Tell them the garden sings." Emily and Grace taped every note to their wall, building a collage of hope. Adam, reading her words, felt something unexpected growing in his chest. It wasn't just gratitude or respect. It was something deeper, something dangerous and beautiful. He pushed it down, focusing on the girls, but he knew it was there. When Eleanor finally returned in spring, the garden had blossomed. The dogwoods bloomed white, the bench sat strong, and the air smelled of new beginnings. The twins ran to her without hesitation, their laughter echoing across the hill. Eleanor crouched to greet them, tears streaming down her face. Adam stood back, then offered his hand. She took it firmly, holding on a second too long. "You kept visiting," she said. "You taught me how." Adam smiled. "We all taught each other." At that moment, surrounded by blossoms and children's laughter, something undeniable settled between them, a future waiting to be written. Eleanor's return was quieter than her departure. She stepped out of the car without ceremony. No cameras, no headlines. Emily and Grace clung to her hands as though afraid she might vanish again. Adam noticed the change. Her elegance remained, but she carried less armor. The cemetery garden flourished, the dogwoods glowing with life. "You've kept it beautiful," she whispered, running her hand along the new blossoms. Adam nodded. "It's what we do. We keep things alive." For the first time, Eleanor smiled without sadness in her eyes. That moment marked the beginning of something neither dared to name yet. Soon, their lives intertwined beyond the cemetery. Eleanor began visiting Adam's apartment, bringing simple groceries that transformed dinners into feasts. Emily and Grace treated her as though she had always belonged. She read them bedtime stories in her measured, graceful voice, and they listened as if the world were turning inside her words. Adam stood in the doorway sometimes, watching, realizing that his daughters had found in Eleanor not a replacement for their mother, but an expansion of family. For him, it was more complicated. He fought the pull in his chest, afraid of hope that might break him. The world, however, refused to ignore Eleanor Pierce. Paparazzi eventually discovered her quiet visits. One morning, a tabloid printed a photo of Eleanor leaving Adam's building with Emily and Grace. The headline read, "Billionaire heiress secretly caring for widowers' children." Eleanor's phone rang endlessly, her board demanding explanations. Adam braced for her to step back, but she didn't. Instead, she sat with him that evening, phone silenced, and said, "Let them talk. I've lived long enough with people telling my story. This time, I choose." Adam studied her face, wondering how someone so powerful could still be so brave. Eleanor's presence also changed Adam's daughters. Emily grew bolder, speaking up more in class. Grace, once shy, began sharing her art proudly, encouraged by Eleanor's gentle praise. "Your mother would be proud," Adam told them often, though he knew Eleanor was shaping them too. Sometimes he caught himself imagining a future where Sundays weren't the only time Eleanor was near, where laughter filled more than just visits. He pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the present. Yet the girls seemed to know. One night, Grace whispered, "Daddy, are we allowed to love her?" Adam's heart cracked. "Yes," he said softly. Not everyone welcomed this bond. At the next board meeting, Eleanor faced harsh words. "Your reputation is our reputation," one director sneered. "This widower complicates matters." Eleanor's voice was steady. "Thomas taught me that life is more than reputation. If the company disagrees, it will manage without me." Silence followed. Adam learned of this later, and anger burned inside him, not at her, but at a world that judged kindness as weakness. He told her, "You don't owe us anything," she replied simply. "I don't stay because I owe you. I stay because I want to." That truth stunned him. Spring turned to summer, and the four of them built memories. They picnicked near the dogwoods, painted birdhouses, and taught Irving how to play catch. Eleanor, once a figure of untouchable wealth, knelt in the dirt beside Emily and Grace, planting marigolds. Adam watched, realizing that wealth had never made her rich. This mud on her knees, children's laughter in her ears, was the true treasure. One evening, Eleanor confessed, "I feel freer here than I ever did in boardrooms." Adam answered quietly, "Freedom isn't about money. It's about who you spend your time with." She held his gaze, unflinching. The press escalated their scrutiny. Journalists hounded Adam's workplace, neighbors whispered, and curious strangers loitered near the cemetery. Emily and Grace grew nervous, clinging closer to Adam and Eleanor. It pained him to see their sanctuary invaded. Eleanor finally acted. She called a press conference, standing tall before flashing cameras. "Yes, I spend time with Adam Richards and his daughters," she declared, "because grief unites us and love heals us. If kindness is scandalous, then I accept it." The story changed overnight. Some mocked her, but many praised her courage. Adam watched the broadcast, his chest swelling with awe and fear. One evening, Eleanor arrived at Adam's apartment, looking shaken. "My lawyers want me to reconsider everything," she admitted. "They say tying myself to you jeopardizes contracts." Adam stiffened. "Then don't," he said bitterly. "We'll be fine." Eleanor grabbed his hand. "Don't you see? That's exactly why I can. Because you never ask me for anything. Everyone else wants pieces of me. You and the girls you give me back myself." Silence filled the room. Then Emily burst in, dragging Grace behind her, and proudly showed Eleanor their homework. The tension broke, replaced with laughter. Yet the words lingered in Adam's heart. By autumn, the garden at the cemetery had become a symbol. Visitors paused to admire it, unaware of the story beneath. Eleanor and Adam often sat together, watching the twins play tag among the dogwoods. "Thomas would have loved them," Eleanor whispered once. Adam smiled. "And Lily would have been grateful for you." They didn't speak further, but their hands brushed on the bench, neither pulling away. It was a small gesture, but for both, it was enormous. The cemetery, once only a place of loss, had become the birthplace of something new, hope, fragile, yet undeniable. Then came the storm. A scandalous article claimed Adam was exploiting Eleanor, using his daughters to trap her. Paparazzi swarmed the cemetery, snapping photos. Emily cried, asking if they had done something wrong. Adam's fury boiled, but Eleanor knelt and cupped the girls' faces. "You've done everything right," she said firmly. "This world doesn't always understand love, but that doesn't make love wrong." Adam realized then that Eleanor wasn't just defending herself. She was defending them all. And in that moment, he knew. They weren't simply friends or companions. They were becoming a family, no matter what the world said. The board demanded Eleanor cut ties. She refused. "If business costs me the people I love, then it costs too much," she declared. Shock waves rippled through her empire. Adam heard the news and confronted her. "You can't throw everything away for us." Eleanor's eyes blazed. "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing." Adam had no answer. That night, Emily and Grace asked Eleanor to stay for dinner. She cooked with them, laughter filling the kitchen. Adam stood by the doorway, realizing his life had shifted. He no longer feared losing Eleanor. He feared losing the courage to admit he needed her. Winter came again. Snow blanketed the dogwoods, muffling the world. Adam, Eleanor, and the twins decorated the cemetery with ribbons and lanterns. Eleanor whispered Thomas's name. Adam whispered Lily's. Emily and Grace linked their hands, declaring, "Now it's one family." Eleanor's eyes shone with tears. Later, back at the apartment, she sat by the window, watching snow fall. Adam joined her, silence stretching comfortably. Finally, she said, "Do you think we could build a life? Not just visits, not just gardens?" Adam's heart pounded. "I think we already are," he answered softly. Their hands intertwined, this time without hesitation. As the new year began, Eleanor formally stepped back from her company. Newspapers screamed, "Billionaire chooses family over fortune." Critics called it madness, but Adam saw the relief in her eyes. She was no longer chained to expectations. Instead, she embraced Emily and Grace, teaching them music, helping with schoolwork, and joining their bedtime prayers. "You've given me more than money ever did," she told Adam. "You've given me a reason to stay." He didn't reply immediately. He only looked at the three of them together, his daughters and the woman who had become theirs too, and realized his world had changed forever. The community adjusted slowly. Some admired, others judged, but Adam stopped caring. He had spent too long worrying about opinions that didn't pay rent or feed children. What mattered was here. Family. Eleanor often said, "Grief built us, but love remade us." The girls repeated it proudly, as if it were their family motto. In time, Adam found steady work through one of Eleanor's charitable projects, not as a favor, but as recognition of his skills. He began to breathe easier, the constant fear of instability finally easing. With Eleanor by his side, the future felt not just possible, but bright. One spring afternoon, they gathered at the garden to plant new flowers. Emily and Grace insisted on roses for Lily and tulips for Thomas. Eleanor bent beside them, dirt on her hands, hair loose in the breeze. Adam watched, overwhelmed by gratitude. "How did this happen?" he whispered. Eleanor looked up, meeting his eyes. "Because you stopped to speak to a stranger on a bench." The truth of it settled in the air. Sometimes the smallest acts, sharing a ribbon, offering a tissue, changed the shape of entire lives. For them, it had created a family that neither grief nor wealth could buy. Time passed, and the bonds only deepened. Eleanor taught the girls piano. Adam taught her how to cook stew from scraps, and together they built a rhythm of love and laughter. They still visited the cemetery every Sunday, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. It was the place where sorrow had introduced them, where hope had been planted like the dogwoods, and where love had first dared to bloom. Standing together, four shadows among stones, they no longer felt broken. They felt whole. And for Adam, Emily, Grace, and Eleanor, the story of grief had finally become a story of family.